So for our lesson of today, we are going to look at polynomials. So in this, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to know the following vocabulary. Number one, you must be able to know what is a term. Then also you should be able to know what is an expression. Then also you should be able to know what we call a variable. Then also you should be able to know what we call a coefficient. Okay. Then also you will be able to know what we call a monomial. Then lastly, you will know what we call a polynomial. So we will know what we call term, expression, variable, coefficient, monomial, and polynomial by the end of this lesson. Okay, let's begin right away. So we are having five x. So when you look at this 5x, I would like you to know that the whole of 5x, we call it term. And now this 5x, it is a term and it has one term. So 5x, we call it term and it is actually one term. And in this 5x, all else in this term, we have one variable. One variable. And this variable is x. This x, we call it the variable. Okay. The exponent of this variable, remember what we said, the exponent is the same as power, or the same as index. So the exponent of this variable x, the exponent of x is 1. 1 is the exponent. Then 5, we call it the coefficient of x. Coefficient of x. So the coefficient of x is 5. Okay. So the whole of 5x, we call it a term. It has one variable, which is x. The exponent of the variable x is 1. In other words, the power is 1. But you know, whenever we are having a power of 1, we don't always write it because it doesn't change the value of a number, the value of a number or a variable. So that's why we don't write the power of 1. So the coefficient is 5. This one. So when you multiply a number by a variable, you get what we call the coefficient. Now, from here, you are discovering that what we call the variable is x. X is just like a letter, an English alphabet letter. So when we talk about variables, when I say variable, you should know that these are letters of English alphabet. Letters of English alphabet. Like A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, all of those we call them variables. When we are dealing with polynomials or when we are dealing with algebra, we call all the letters of English alphabet, we call them variables. So that's why in this term 5x, I'm trying to show you that x is the variable. Then the coefficient of x is 5. So what we call the coefficient is that number that you multiply by the variable. So if I get x times 5, I will get 5x. So it means that 5 is the coefficient of x and x is the variable. Okay, I'll give you another example. Let's have it as number 2. Let us have 2x plus 3. Now, in this 2x plus 3, when we have 2x alone, we call it a term. 2x is one term, and also 3 is also another term. So this means that this is what we call the expression. So in the expression, we are having 2 or more terms, and they are joined by addition. We use addition to join the terms. So, and when we put terms together using addition, we get what we call the expression. So 2x plus 3 is called expression. Now, this expression has got 2 terms. This expression has got 2 terms. That is 2x and 3. I hope you understand that. Then also, this expression has got one variable. Has one variable. In other words, has one letter, and that is x. This one. Then the coefficient of x, the coefficient of x is 2. The coefficient of x is 2. And you see in number 1, the coefficient of x was 5. But here the coefficient of x is 2. Okay? And the exponent of x, exponent of x, or the exponent of the variable is 1. You see that the exponent of this x is 1. But we don't write 1 like for the reason that I've told you already. Okay. Let us get another one to understand this very well. Let's call it number 3. We have got x squared. You can also call it x to the power of 2 minus 3y plus 1. So this is another expression. Remember, we have seen that 5x is a term, 2x plus 3 is an expression. And one thing that you must know about the term can be 5x, can be any letter, can be any number, okay? Then expression is when we put terms together using addition. Then we are having x squared minus 3y plus 1. Now this one, it is an expression with 3 terms, okay? And these terms we have x squared, we have minus 3y, and we also have 1. These are 3 terms. 1, 2, 3. Okay. One more thing to know about this is that here we have 2 variables. 2 variables. That is x and y. When we look at number 1, we had 1 variable, x. In number 2, still we have 1 variable, x. But in number 3, you can see that we have got 2 variables. That is x and y. Those are the 2 variables in our number 3. Then also, here, we have got the coefficient of x. Coefficient of x is, what is the coefficient of x? The coefficient of x is 1. Okay. And the exponent of x, exponent of x is 2. The power of x is 2. Then the coefficient of y is -3. And the exponent of y is 1. Y is to the power of 1. Okay. Yeah, so something else that I want to tell you is that what we call the constant. Here we have 1 constant, and that constant is 1. The constant is 1. So the constant is that number that you have and it does not have any variable. For example, this 1. So 1 has no variable. It is not multiplied by any variable. It is not multiplied by any number. So that is what we call the constant. But if, for instance, in number 2, if we have 2x, this 2 will be called the coefficient of x. But now this 3 is the constant in this expression. Okay. So let me give you another example, the last one, and then we try to again look at these expressions in two details. Let's call this number 4. Let's have 6xy to the power of 3 plus 1. So you see that this expression has got two terms. That is 6xy to the power of 3 and 1. Okay. Then we have two variables. We have two variables. That is x and y. Okay. Then we have one constant. One constant. And that is 1. This one. Okay. Then the exponent. And before you look at the exponent, let's look at the coefficient of xy. The coefficient of xy is 6. And then the exponent of x is 1. And then the exponent of y is 3. I hope you can see that very well. Okay. Now, at this time, we know what is term, we know the expression, we know the variable, we know the coefficient. Now, let's try to know what is monomial and what is polynomial. Okay. Let's get to know the monomial. Okay. So a monomial is like, it is either a number or a variable or a product of a number and one or more variables. But the exponent of the variable must be a whole number. When I say whole numbers, we mean 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. So in other words, the exponent of the variable must not be a negative. I hope you understand that. So some examples of, let me try to write something here for you to take note. A monomial is either a number or a variable or a product of a number and one or more variables. Okay. Let's continue. We say with whole number exponents. Okay. And note that when we say whole number, we mean like 0, 1, 2, 3, and others. So whole numbers are not fractions, are not decimals, are not negatives, but these are some of the examples. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and like that. So this is what we call a monomial. It can be a number. Let's say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -1, -2, -3, any number. It can be a variable. A variable, I've told you already that these are letters of English alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, X, Y, Z. All of those are variables. A product of a number and one or more variables. A product, remember, a product is the result that we get after multiplication. So if we get a number, let's say 2 times a variable, let's say x, we get 2x. So that will be a product of a number and a variable, and that is also a monomial. Let's get some examples to understand this very well. So we said that it is either a number. So this means that if I have, let's say, 2, this will be a monomial. Let's say I have 9, this will be a monomial, and many others. Then we say that it can be a variable. So it can be, let's say, x, it can be y, it can be a, and many other variables. Then we said that it can be a product of a number and one variable. So it can be, let's say, 5 times y, that is 5y. It can be, let's say, like 2 times, let's say, a. It can be, let's say, 10 times m. Okay, so all these are monomials. Then we also said that it can be a product of a number and one or more. So if we have, let's say, 5 xy, so here we are having a monomial with 2 variables, x and y. Even if, let's say, we have 2 2mnp, also this is a monomial with 3 variables. So I think now you can understand what we call a monomial. It can be a number, it can be a variable, it can be a product of one or more variables. But the most important thing, we are saying that if it has got the exponent, then that exponent must not be a negative. So this means that I can even put here, let's say, the exponent of 2. I have 5xy squared. So long as this 2 is positive, no problem. I can have 10m to the power of 7. Still, it will be a monomial, no problem. You understand that? So we are saying that the exponent must be a positive. Okay? Or it can be a 0. but it must not be a negative. All right. Now, let's look at what we call a polynomial. Polynomial. Now, a polynomial, it is just a combination of two words. Poly means many, then nomial means term. So it's like polynomial, it is the same as many terms. Many terms. So actually, before we look at polynomial, we look at a monomial, we look at monomial one more. There is, remember I told you that if I have like 2, if I have 9, if I have any number, that will be a term. So we are seeing that here we are also calling it a monomial. So this means that a monomial can also be called a term. But note that there are some terms whose exponents are negatives. So if a term has got an exponent as a negative, let's say I have 2x to the power of negative 3. This is a term, but this term is not a monomial. You have to understand this very well. This is a term, no problem. But this term is not monomial. Now look, if I have 2x to the power of 3, this is a term. Again, it is a monomial. So this is something that you must understand very well. A monomial, the power, all the exponent must be a whole number. It must be 0, it must be positive. But if we have got a term whose exponent is negative, then that is not a monomial. I hope you have understood that very well. So let's continue and look at polynomial. So we are saying that polynomial, it has got a combination of two words. Poly, that means many, nomial, that means term. So in other words, polynomial means many terms. Okay. So let's understand then what are some examples of polynomial, or what are some of the properties of the polynomial. So we get a polynomial when we put together monomials. When we put together monomials using addition, I can say all minus, but remember we can write a subtraction sentence with addition. So let's generally say addition. So polynomial comes up when we combine 2 or more monomials. So we can say a polynomial is a combination of 2 or more, a combination of 2 or more monomials. A combination of 2 or more monomials is what we call a polynomial. And this combination comes up using addition. So a combination of 2 or more monomials using addition. It is what we call a polynomial. One more thing here in a polynomial, there must not be any dividing by a variable. No dividing by a variable. This is because when we divide by a variable, for instance, if we have, let's say, 2x out of, let's say, y. Now, when we divide by the variable y, and we write this in a multiplication form, then we will have 2x y to the power of -1. Why the power of -1? So when you look at this term, the coefficient is actually 1 out of y. So it's like we have 1 out of y, 2x. But 1 out of y, when we write it using powers, then we are going to have y to the power of -1. Y to the power of -1. I think you remember this. So when we have y to the power of -1, remember we say that this is 1 out of y to the power of 1. So you see that y to the power of 1 is the same as y. So we are having we are having 1 out of y. And now you see that when we divide by, a variable, will make us get a negative exponent. And yet we must only have whole number exponents. We must not have the exponent that is 0. That's why we must not divide by a variable. So if you divide by a variable, it means that what you are having is not a polynomial. I hope you understand that very well. Okay. Now, let's get some examples here. Let's say we have got 2x plus 3. Now you see that 2x plus 3, we are putting together two monomials, 2x as a monomial and 3 as a monomial. So when we put them together, we are getting a polynomial. Okay, I hope you can understand that very well. Then another one, let's get another example here. Let's say we have got 6xy to the power of 3 plus 1. So you see that also here we are having two monomials. 6xy to the power of 3, that is the first one, and then 1 is another monomial. So two monomials coming up with this kind of a polynomial, 6xy to the power of 3 plus 1. Let's get another example. Let's say we have got x squared minus 3y plus 1. So you see that this is a polynomial with 3 monomials. That is x squared, then minus 3y, then 1. So these are some examples of polynomials. Okay. Now, from what we have looked at, let's have these questions. I will ask you these questions. and then you will answer me after watching this video. Okay, so according to what we have looked at, do you think 0 is a monomial or not? And why? Let me write it for you. Is 0 a monomial? Is 0 a monomial? And why? So I want you to give your answer. You can pause a video and think and tell me if you think 0 is a monomial or not. And if it is not, why? And if it is, why? Okay, so what do you think? So we said that a monomial is any number. Okay, so since 0 is a number, then it means that 0 is a monomial. Okay, and also we said that a monomial can be written as a multiplication of a number and a variable. But the variable must have a positive exponent, or it must have a 0 exponent, or in other words, it must have no negative exponent. So if we want to write, let's say, 0 as a product of a number and a variable, let's say we can write it as, let's say, 0x. Okay, and now give x an exponent, let's say 2. So you see that 0x to the power of 2, this is a monomial. But then 0x, that means 0 times x squared still will give you 0. So it can be written as a multiplication of a number and a variable. And also, since we said that a monomial is any number, and we know that 0 is a number, then we know that 0 is a monomial. So we say, therefore, 0 is a monomial. Okay. Now let's get another question. Can we write 5x in form of addition? Can we write 5x in form of addition? Can we write 5x in form of 2 or more variables? ndeke kubahandika sinzembe typing nayo nakonka gitemu. So I want to also show you something. We have some special names of polynomials. Okay, so we have what we call a monomial, So a monomial, it is a type of a polynomial. Yes, it is. Yes, it is polynomial. Polynomial. So a monomial take on PowerPoint. Ibyo kwandika nakandi bikererwa ugumana ugaruka muri yo no handika. Ngeni ndogodi. Ati biriyo ndomiza mpunkanza kubitema. Nekundega nisa. Sakwa temoko gita. So let's have some special names of polynomials. We have what we call a polynomial. Let's have some special names of polynomials. Number one, let's have what we call a monomial. So a monomial is a polynomial with one term. This polynomial has got one term. For instance, if we have, let's say, 5x, if we have, let's say, 2xy squared. Okay, so another one, we have what we call a binomial. So a binomial has got two terms. Let's say we have a polynomial like 5x plus 2. So you see that we have two terms, that is 5x and 2. Then let's have, let's say, 4xy cubed minus minus 6. So you see that we are having two terms, that is 4xy cubed and minus 6. So we have got two terms. This one we call it a binomial. Then we have what we call a trinomial. So a trinomial has got three terms. It has three terms. So let's say we have got x squared minus x plus 1. So you can see that these are three terms. You have x squared, then we have minus x, then we have plus 1. Let's say we have got 2m plus 6x, let's say plus y. So you see that this is a polynomial with three terms, 2m plus 6x plus y. Okay, I hope you can understand that. Let's say you have 2x squared plus 10x plus, let's say, 4. This is also a trinomial. So I hope you have understood these three special names of polynomials. So let's get some examples and we check if it is a polynomial or if it is not a polynomial. Are the following expressions polynomials? Let's have number 1, 2a to the power of 3. So 2a to the power of 3, it is a polynomial. Why? You can see the exponent is 3 and 3 is a positive. So since it has got a positive exponent, then we say that it is a polynomial. Okay. So number 1, it's a polynomial. Let's have number 2. We have -6 x squared y to the power of 5. So what do you think about this? So we can see that this is a product of a number that is -6 and then two variables that is x and y. And also the exponents are positives. We see that the exponent of x is 2 and the exponent of y is 5. So this one is a polynomial. It's a polynomial. Okay, let's have another one. We are having 7 out of b. Now we said that we must not have division of variables, because when we divide by a variable, it will give us a negative exponent. So when you look at this, when we write it like in a multiplication form, we are going to have it as 7b to the power of -1. So if we have 7b to the power of -1, we are having the exponent as a negative. And you know that we must not have any negative exponent. So we say that this one, it's not a polynomial. Okay. Let's have another one. If we have 4p minus 2q to the power of 4. Okay. This one already we can see that it can be written as addition of monomials if we write this as 4p plus minus 2q to the power of 4. So you see, that is okay. Also, we see that the exponents are positives. You see that the exponent of p is positive 1, and the exponent of q is positive 4. So since it can be written as addition of two monomials and the exponents are positives, then we say that it is a polynomial. Okay. Now, let's have another one. X squared minus 3y plus z. X squared minus 3y plus z. So you see that the exponent of x is 2, the exponent of y is 1, the exponent of z is 1. That is okay. And we see that this one can also be written in addition form. If we have, let's say, x squared plus minus 3y plus z. Okay. So since it can be written in addition form, and also the exponents are positives, so we say that it is a polynomial. Okay, let's get the last one. Let us have 3 to the power of m, 3m to the power of minus 1 plus 2 out of n to the power of 3 plus 4. So look at this kind of expression that we are having. Now you look at, it's okay, it can be written as addition, that's good, but the power of m is negative. This alone makes the whole of it become not a polynomial. And also, since we are dividing by a variable, this will also make it not a polynomial. So it means that it is not a polynomial. Okay, so I believe that you have understood what we call a polynomial, what we call a monomial, what we call terms. Remember, I told you that there are some terms which are not monomials. Okay, so I believe you know what is called by a constant, you know what we call a variable. So I believe that you have understood. Okay. Now, I want you to pause the video and do these practice questions, okay? Okay, so number one, let's have 5x to the power of -4. Next, we have 3a out of b to the power of -2. 3, let's have 2 out of 5 to the power 2 out of 5m to the power of 3 minus 1 out of n to the power of -2. And let's have 4 as 3 out of 4p to the power of 5 plus q minus 6r. Okay, so let's stop here for today and we meet again next time. Goodbye.